Word class, you will be able to purchase Microsoft Office, which includes the word processor, spreadsheet, and many of the other types of applications that we talked about here for how much?
I heard there's a discount.
Yeah, that's a huge discount. I think it's what, $60, $70?
$40.
Huh? 40 bucks?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really good bargain. Some word processor applications may have some layout control, like having 2 columns, 3 columns, and so on. But the desktop publishing application has far more features suitable for publishing magazines, newsletters. If you run a restaurant, if you want to create menus, using a desktop publishing application will give you a lot more control of where to put the pictures, where to put the words, where to put an inlet, like a special deal thing, and whatnot. Are there any questions about word processing? Is anyone interested in desktop publishing? No. Okay. Well, no. If no one is interested, I'll talk about it anyway. Can't stop me. Okay. For those of you who have taken the beginning word processing class, you can also take an immediate word processing class, and they will cover more features from a word processor. Okay. Let me see. Where's the? Sometimes we don't offer the desktop publishing software right there. So CISA 330 and also 331, these two are related to desktop publishing using Adobe InDesign. Adobe InDesign is a very, very complicated software, a very complicated program, to the point where if you really just want to write a letter to grandma, you probably don't want to bring out InDesign. I mean, it's really complicated and there's a lot of control, but it's also capable of doing a lot if it is desktop publishing that you want to do. So these two classes, 330 and 331, are related to desktop publishing. If your job involves publishing magazines, menus for restaurants, newsletters, and that sort of thing, this would be a right class to take. And they're still using CS5 even though CS6 is now released. The problem is the textbook. With all of these programs, when a software is released, typically we have to wait about a year before there are any textbooks that we can actually use in courses. So that's why there's usually a 1-year delay from the time a particular program or application is released to the time that a course can be taught using that version. Next, we have spreadsheets. Okay, so how many people here think you know what a spreadsheet is? Okay, kind of fewer people. Okay, when I asked about word processor, I think a lot of people know what a word processor is. But when we ask about a spreadsheet, not nearly as many people. A spreadsheet document looks like a huge table. I will show you exactly what it looks like. And I need to resize that a little bit so I can show this. I'm using LibreOffice, and Microsoft Office has Excel, which does the same thing as this. All right, so I'm going to close this one because this is not the document that I want to show you. So let's close here. All right, so I'm going to create a new document, a new spreadsheet. And this is it. This is a spreadsheet. It doesn't look very exciting, right? Looks like a huge table. Well, let's go ahead and see what we can do with each cell of a table. The cells are organized into columns. So this is column A, column B, column C, and so on. And also rows. This is row 1, row 2, row 3, and etc. So I can start to type something here. So I would say, let's try to figure out. Okay, this is really easy. Okay, so here I have hours and minutes, and here I want to calculate the number of seconds given that many hours and that many minutes. So let's say we want to calculate the number of seconds in a regular class, which is 80 minutes. This class lasts 1 hour and 20 minutes. So the question now is how many seconds do we have in 1 hour and 20 minutes. Now, you guys can pull out a calculator, and most of you can finish that calculation within 10 seconds, right?
80 minutes. 80 minutes.
It's 80 minutes, but since I'm asking about seconds, it's 480 seconds. Okay, so you can just type your 480 seconds. But if you do it this way, if I change this number here, hey, that doesn't change automatically. So what I want to do here is to use a formula. When you want to use a formula in a spreadsheet, you start with an equal symbol. Okay, so that really tells the spreadsheet application that we are not really typing in the value of a cell, we're typing in a formula so that it can be calculated by itself. Okay, so we will say, this number of seconds is this number times 3,600, because there are 3,600 seconds in an hour, plus this number, I'm just clicking it, I'm not even typing it, times 60, because there are 60 seconds in a minute. And it comes out to 4,500 because I changed this number to 15. What do you think happens when I bump this number back up to 20? It updates automatically. Okay? So this is a very quick illustration of the true value of a spreadsheet program, a spreadsheet application. It's not just for formatting as a table. You can do that easily within a word processor as well. But this is really for calculations. Okay, you can make the value, or you can make a cell where its value depends on the value of other cells. It can be useful for many purposes. How many people are taken or have taken a physics class or a chemistry class where you have labs? Okay. If you have labs, you have collected data, right? And you can use a spreadsheet program to help you, analyze the data. You can find the mean of, the numbers. You can use linear regression to find out what the trend is. You can also use a graphing ability of a spreadsheet, so you can visualize, how the data is, spread out, using a graph. So all of that stuff you can do with a spreadsheet. Okay. Are there any questions about, what a spreadsheet can do in this case? No questions? If you want to keep track of your customers, you can use a spreadsheet to kind of, you can store the addresses, names, and customer ID using a spreadsheet. But that's really not what a spreadsheet is for. That's more like what a database is for. Yep.
When I learned how to use Excel, it was primarily for like accounting and things like that.
Mm-hmm. You can use a spreadsheet to balance your checkbook, for one thing. You can use it to calculate mortgage payment. You can play out different scenario. Okay, so let's say you're thinking about purchasing a house. Okay, and you have this much cash on hand, and this is the interest rate. So the question is, do you want to use all the cash as down payment, and then pay so your monthly payment will be less? Or do you want to only use a part of your cash as down payment, so your monthly payment will be more, but the rest of the cash you can invest it? Okay, so what would be a good split? Okay, it has to do with your assumption of how fast your money can grow over time because of interest. But without a spreadsheet, you will have to use a calculator and come up with all the different scenarios, and then it will be very confusing. With a spreadsheet, you can play out all the different scenarios pretty easily. And then you can also remember and graph everything. So you can say, oh, okay, if the interest rate for lending money is this much, and the expected growth of money is or interest is this much, the split, if I split the money this way, half of it goes into the down payment, half of it I go put it into investment. I have the optimal output. In 10, 20 years, I end up with the most money. So you can play out different scenario like that. Using a spreadsheet is easy. You want to figure out, which car you want to buy. Okay, let's say you're contemplating between a hybrid versus a regular car. A regular car like a Toyota, Corolla, or a Elantra from Hyundai is not very expensive. It does use up a little bit more gas compared to a Prius or any hybrid vehicle. And then you compare that to a hybrid vehicle, which is more expensive, upfront, but you pay less, as time goes on, because it doesn't use up as much gas. So how do you know which one is more optimal for you? Well, it depends on how much you drive, It depends on which car you're thinking about. It depends on many of the factors. Using a spreadsheet, you can play out all the different scenarios. Okay, you can punch in different numbers like, okay, assuming I drive 30,000 miles a year, and this is how much I pay for gas. What would be the cost of ownership of these cars? Okay, now let's say that I move closer to where I work. I don't have to commute as much. I'm only driving 15,000 miles a year, and how would those numbers change? You can add in insurance, cost of insurance, cost of maintenance, and so on and so forth, and make those numbers as realistic as possible. But the whole point is you can change one assumption, and then the spreadsheet will update itself to show you the bottom line right away. You don't have to go through the calculations by hand, for each and every scenario. Is that making any sense? Sort of? Okay. Yep, go ahead.
Can you do complex formulas like such as standard deviation or?
You can do that.
The quadratic formula?
Yeah. Well, quadratic is something that you can just input, because it's just the power of a variable or coefficient times certain powers of a coefficient of a certain variable. With the statistics built into a spreadsheet, you can do standard deviation, you can do variance. There's a whole bunch of formula related to statistics. I can show you just a few of those. I can say insert function, and here I can go to statistical functions, and you can see it has average. You can do beta test. You can also do chi-test. You can do standard deviation, and a lot of these things I don't even remember from my good old days of taking statistic classes. So yes, so you can do a lot with a spreadsheet program. If you are into financial stuff, okay, you can do all sorts of things, including figuring out the mortgage, okay, based on how much money you're borrowing and your monthly. You can figure out your monthly payment given how much money you're borrowing, the principal as well as the interest rate. It will come up with the monthly payment. Yeah, I think this PMT is for that purpose. So you have to give it the interest rate, number of period, principal value, future value, and the type. Yep, go ahead.
When I took the Excel class, one of the projects we did was building a mortgage calculator.
Mm-hmm.
So it was
Yep.
really cool.
Yeah, it's practical too. I mean, a lot of people may find it useful because it just really helps you figure out, okay, in the end, how much money am I paying? Is it better to do it this way, or is it better to do it some other way? So this is what this is really just a glimpse of what a spreadsheet program can do. Once you learn how to use it. And to get back to our courses that are offered, spreadsheet classes are 315. Okay, you can see this one here, Introduction to Electronic Spreadsheet. It's CISA 315, and also 316. 315 is the beginning one, and then 316 is the intermediate one. If you just read the description here, this course introduces the use of electronic spreadsheet programs, designing spreadsheet, developing formulas and functions for automatic calculation, developing what-if models. Remember, the scenario where you have to determine, with this much cash, on my hand, how should I split it, for down payment and for investment,